Have you ever wondered how a boy who seemed destined for failure became the greatest baseball player America had ever seen? Every legend has a beginning, but Babe Ruth's story is unlike any other. It's a story of poverty, heartbreak, second chances, and a dream so powerful that it forever changed the game of baseball. When I think about Babe Ruth, I don't just see home runs or cheering crowds. I see a young boy who had every reason to give up but chose a different path. His journey reminds us that greatness doesn't come from having a perfect life, it comes from refusing to let your past decide your future. George Herman Ruth Jr., the man the world would later know as Babe Ruth, was born on February 6, 1895, in Baltimore, Maryland. His parents owned a small saloon, and life was far from easy. The neighborhood was rough, and young George often wandered the streets, getting into trouble instead of attending school. By the time he was only 7 years old, his parents realized they could no longer control him. It was one of the hardest decisions they ever made. They sent him to St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys, a strict Catholic boarding school that cared for troubled and orphan children. Imagine being just 7 years old, leaving your family behind, and living in a place where discipline ruled every day. Many children would have felt abandoned. George certainly struggled with loneliness and anger. But sometimes life places us exactly where we need to be. At St. Mary's, George met a man who would change his life forever, Brother Matthias Boutlier. More than a teacher, Brother Matthias became a mentor, a father figure, and someone who believed in George when few others did. Brother Matthias noticed something special. George wasn't just energetic, he had incredible strength and natural athletic ability. He handed George a baseball glove and a bat, unknowingly setting history into motion. The moment George stepped onto a baseball field, everything changed. For the first time in his young life, he felt like he belonged. Baseball became more than a game. It became his escape, his purpose, and eventually, his future. Day after day, George practiced relentlessly. While others rested, he kept swinging. While others complained, he kept learning. His powerful left-handed swing quickly caught everyone's attention. Soon, professional scouts began hearing about the talented teenager from St. Mary's. At just 19 years old, George signed his first professional baseball contract with the Baltimore Orioles of the International League. The older players teased him because he was the youngest on the team. They jokingly called him Babe, meaning he was just a kid among grown men. No one could have imagined that this nickname would become one of the most famous names in sports history. His incredible talent didn't stay hidden for long. Later that same year, he was sold to the Boston Red Sox. At first, Babe wasn't known as a hitter. He was an outstanding pitcher. His powerful left arm helped the Red Sox win games, and he quickly became one of baseball's brightest young stars. But there was something different about Babe Ruth. Whenever he stepped up to the plate, fans noticed the unbelievable power behind his swing. In an era when most players focused on singles and bunts, Babe aimed for the fences. People thought he was taking unnecessary risks. They were wrong. Every towering home run thrilled the crowd and changed the way Americans viewed baseball. Fans didn't just want to watch games anymore, they wanted to watch Babe Ruth. Without realizing it, he was changing the sport forever. Little did anyone know, the biggest chapter of his incredible journey was still waiting just around the corner. Babe Ruth's career was about to take a turn that no one could have imagined. In 1919, the Boston Red Sox made one of the most famous decisions in sports history. They sold Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees for $100,000, a massive amount of money at the time. Boston believed they were making a smart business decision. Instead, they unknowingly changed baseball forever. When Babe arrived in New York, he wasn't just joining another team. He was stepping onto the biggest stage in America. The city was alive with energy, and Yankees fans were eager to see what this powerful hitter could do. Babe didn't disappoint. In his very first season with the Yankees, he smashed 54 home runs, shattering records that many people thought would never be broken. Fans packed stadiums just to watch him take a single swing. Every time Babe walked to the plate, the crowd stood up. Children climbed onto their father's shoulders. Vendors stopped selling snacks. Even opposing fans secretly hoped to witness another towering home run. He wasn't just playing baseball anymore. He was putting on a show. Before Babe Ruth, baseball was often a slow, strategic game. But Babe brought excitement, power, and drama that people had never seen before. His booming home runs made baseball America's favorite pastime. Soon, the Yankees became the most famous team in the country. The stadium echoed with chants of, "Babe, Babe, Babe." Newspapers couldn't stop writing about him. His face appeared on magazine covers. Children copied his batting stance. Millions of Americans saw him as more than an athlete, they saw him as a symbol of hope and possibility. But fame came with challenges. Babe loved life off the field just as much as he loved playing on it. He enjoyed late nights, rich food, and endless celebrations. Sometimes his lifestyle affected his performance, and critics wondered if his success would last. Instead of giving up, Babe always found a way to bounce back. His determination amazed teammates and fans alike. In 1927, Babe became part of one of the greatest teams in baseball history. Alongside stars like Lou Gehrig, the Yankees dominated the league. That same year, Babe hit an unbelievable 60 home runs in a single season, a record that stood for more than 3 decades. People believed they were witnessing something impossible. Many fans traveled hundreds of miles just for the chance to see Babe play once. He had become America's biggest sports hero. Yet despite all the fame, Babe never forgot what it felt like to be a lonely little boy searching for a place to belong. Whenever he visited hospitals, he spent hours talking with sick children. He signed baseballs, smiled for photographs, and reminded young fans to keep believing in themselves. Those quiet moments meant just as much to him as the standing ovations. To Babe Ruth, inspiring people was just as important as hitting home runs. But life has a way of reminding us that even legends are human. As the years passed, Babe grew older. Younger players entered the game, and his incredible power slowly began to fade. The crowd still loved him. But Babe knew his time at the top wouldn't last forever. For the first time in his life, he had to prepare for a future without baseball. And that would become the hardest challenge he had ever faced. As the years passed, Babe Ruth knew that time was catching up with him. The powerful swings that had once sent baseballs soaring into the sky didn't come as easily anymore. Younger players were becoming the new stars, and Babe understood that every athlete eventually has to say goodbye. In 1935, after an unforgettable career, Babe Ruth retired from professional baseball. It wasn't easy. Baseball had been his life since he was a little boy at St. Mary's. Walking away from the game felt like leaving a part of himself behind. Although he dreamed of becoming a manager, that opportunity never truly came. It was one of the biggest disappointments of his life. For a man who had inspired millions and transformed America's pastime, it was heartbreaking not to lead a team from the dugout. Still, Babe refused to let disappointment define him. He continued meeting fans, visiting children's hospitals, and speaking at baseball events. Everywhere he went, people greeted him with smiles, applause, and admiration. To them, Babe Ruth wasn't just a baseball player, he was a living legend. Then came the toughest battle of all. In 1946, Babe was diagnosed with throat cancer. The disease slowly weakened his body, but it couldn't break his spirit. Even through painful treatments, he remained grateful for the life he had lived and the people who had supported him. One of the most emotional moments of his life came on June 13, 1948, when Yankee Stadium held a special ceremony to honor him. More than 50,000 fans filled the stadium. As Babe walked onto the field, he leaned on a baseball bat because he was too weak to stand on his own. The crowd rose to its feet and applauded for several minutes. Some fans were cheering. Others were crying. It wasn't just a celebration of home runs or championships. It was a farewell to the man who had changed baseball forever. Standing there in the stadium where he had created so many unforgettable memories, Babe looked around at the fans who had loved him for decades. It was a moment filled with gratitude, emotion, and respect. Just 2 months later, on August 16, 1948, Babe Ruth passed away at the age of 53. The news shocked America. Thousands of people came to pay their respects. His funeral drew enormous crowds, and fans stood in long lines simply to say goodbye to the man they had admired for so many years. Even after his passing, Babe Ruth's legacy never faded. He finished his career with 714 home runs, a record that stood for nearly 40 years. More importantly, he changed the way baseball was played and watched. Before Babe, fans came to games to enjoy baseball. After Babe, they came hoping to witness history. His influence can still be felt today. Every powerful home run, every packed stadium, and every child dreaming of becoming a baseball player carries a small piece of Babe Ruth's legacy. When I think about Babe Ruth, I don't just remember a legendary athlete. I remember a little boy from Baltimore who could have been forgotten by history. Instead, through hard work, determination, and a love for the game, he became one of the greatest sports icons the world has ever known. His story reminds us that where you begin doesn't determine where you'll finish. Your circumstances don't define your future. Sometimes, all it takes is one person who believes in you, one opportunity, and the courage to keep swinging no matter how many times life throws you a curveball. And that's why Babe Ruth will never be remembered only as the king of home runs. He'll be remembered as the man who gave America a new reason to fall in love with baseball, and showed the world that even the most unlikely dreams can become reality.